Hello and welcome back to another Rush Duel Links video. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about what was announced at the Jump Festa, and specifically new updates that are coming to Duel Links and the Rush side of Duel Links during the 7th anniversary celebration. So specifically for Rush, we've announced that we'll be getting Shield and Sword, which is pretty interesting. This will come alongside with Swords of Revealing Light and Blue Eyes White Dragon for speed, but obviously, a new legend card for Rush is kind of a big deal. This is also going to be our second legend spell card, which means now we will have to make the decision as to whether we want to include Monster Reincarnation or Shield and Sword. Now, Shield and Sword is a pretty useful card in a lot of situations. Typically, monsters in Rush tend to have a lot lower defense than they do attack. Just look at something like Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius, Seven's Road Magician. A lot of these highly used boss monsters do have quite low defense, and thus you can use Shield and Sword to beat over them. Not to mention, this affects every monster in play, which means your monsters that have higher defense could also gain a benefit from this. So maybe something like Bender Break, even though that card is a little bit in struggle street at the moment, you technically could get a boost off of this card. Plus, it works on every monster, which means you could technically break your opponent's entire board quite easily with just this one spell card. So it's definitely up there for consideration, but is obviously very situational, whereas Monster Reincarnation, as long as you have monsters in your graveyard that you want to see again, is always going to be useful. So I'm not sure how much play Shield and Sword will see, but it's definitely likely this card will see some play, even though I do think Monster Reincarnation is going to be better overall, in my opinion. So as well as the 1,000 gems that we will get during this campaign, the other very interesting announcement we got for Rush was that players will receive one free copy of the new Strongest Ace Breaker structure deck for Rush Duels. Now, we did already know that we'd be getting some form of Ultimate Flag Mech monsters coming soon, because we did get a leaked yugioh skill, which says the following. This skill can be used if the only monsters with 1400 or more attack in your deck are machine type or spellcaster type monsters, so very typical for a yugioh skill, locks them into spellcasters and one other type. Can be activated on turn 2 onward. Reveal one machine type monster with 2500 attack or more in your hand, and return one other card from your hand or field to your deck to add one Ultimate Flag Beast Aim Eagle from your deck to your hand. So this is already quite telling. First off, it says reveal a machine type monster with 2500 attack. This is basically just the Ultimate Flag Mech monsters, and there are 3 of them, those being Ultimate Flag Mech Ace Breaker, which again, the name of the structure deck is the Strongest Ace Breaker, so presumably we'll be getting Ultimate Flag Mech Ace Breaker inside of it, and the other 2 are Ultimate Flag Mech Gold Rush and Ultimate Flag Mech Tough Striker. So now, originally, I had thought that we'd probably just get Gold Rush and Tough Striker. That's because both of these cards work quite well together. Ultimate Flag Mech Gold Rush is a 2500 attacker that we can send one machine type effect monster from our hand to the graveyard to add one machine type normal monster from our graveyard to our hand. Then if your opponent has 3 attack position monsters on the field, you can special summon one normal monster from your hand face up to your field. So the logic there being that we would use its effect to get back our Ultimate Flag Mech Tough Striker, which is just a level 7 2500 vanilla, add it back to our hand, then if our opponent has 3 attack position monsters, we get to special summon out, and that's a nice little 2-card combo. Now, obviously, this is very restrictive, but this is why we were expecting this to maybe be the new free-to-play friendly option, because if we're able to just get out 2 2500 monsters that effectively don't do anything, that doesn't really break the game, but it is something. It does give you a little tiny boost, and after hurting the free-to-play deck in Dragons, this seemed to be appropriate to me, and I had expected Ultimate Flag Mech Ace Breaker to be left behind because its effect is maybe, I don't know if it's too strong because the cost is very, very heavy, but it's definitely a good card. So Ace Breaker has the effect to send 2 monsters from your hand to the graveyard to destroy one face-up monster on your opponent's field. So it has to be face-up, so again, we can't use this to get to our opponent's life points if they're triple setting, but discarding 2 monsters to pop a monster is still pretty good, and it is a 2500 attacker, which is very, very good, as well as the fact it has 1600 defense, which means it does play around Ancient Arises effect, which is very relevant. So with this being the boss monster of the deck, I am now not really expecting to see Gold Rush or Tough Striker in the deck. If we go by our Volt Condor structure deck, that only had 2 boss monsters in it, that being the Volt Condor and the Darkness Crested Hawk. So for this deck to include it, that means we would have to have at least one of each of these cards, which would be very nice, because that means if we were to get 3, so we get 1 for free, we'd buy 1 with gems, and then 1 we'd have to buy with actual money. we would then have a playset of all three of these cards, which would be lovely, which is why that seems almost too good to be true, which is why I almost don't expect it. So I think we will be getting the Ultimate Flag Mech Ace Breaker in here at 1. I'm not certain about the other 2, to be honest. But when we go back to the skill, we have to reveal a Machine-type monster 2500 attack or more on our hand. So that basically means it's going to be the Ace Breaker. Then if we do get the other Ultimate Flag Mechs, it will also be those as well. Then we return one other card from our hand or field to deck. So we have to already have a boss monster in hand. Then we have to trade a card away to get out our Ultimate Flag Beast Aim Eagle. So Aim Eagle is an interesting card. If your opponent has a face-up level 7 or higher monster on their field, send 2 face-up light attribute monsters from your field to the graveyard. Now notably, you can also send itself, so basically you can get rid of itself and one other card. Special summon a machine-type monster from your hand face-up to your field. It gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. So, although you're special summoning out the monster, you're still basically tributing itself and one other card most of the time. So you're still going to be tributing 2 to get this card out, but it does gain 1000 attack. So this card basically reads, you can summon out one of your guys with an extra 1000 attack for the turn, which is fine, but it's not crazy, right? I think a lot of people read this card and presume that you're able to kind of use it like a seahorse carrier or like a curry bot, where you can kind of get an extra monster out of this and then cheat it out, but that's not how this works. This is just tributing 2 monsters to get out a monster with 1000 more attack. The other thing to take note of is that this does not create the Ultimate Flag Beast Aim Eagle. This does actually specifically get it from our deck, which means we will be getting Aim Eagle, presumably in this structure deck. Now, there are 2 different types of Ultimate Flag monsters. There's the Ultimate Flag Mechs, which is the boss monsters, then there's the Ultimate Flag Beasts, which are the lower level monsters, which kind of the meat of the deck. So one of those is the Ultimate Flag Beast Cannon Rhino. So it's a level 5 monster, which is already a little bit of a red flag, because again, we don't really like our level 5 and 6 monsters. But it has 1600 attack, which again is kind of low. But we can send 1 light attribute machine type monster from our hand to the graveyard, choose 1 face-up light attribute machine type monster on your field, and give it piercing. Then if we have a face-up normal machine type monster on our field, we can inflict 500 damage to our opponent. So that burn is nice, but it will be more relevant in Duel Links than it was in the physical game, just because with 2000 less life points, any kind of burn effect is going to be a little bit stronger. But the piercing is the main use of this skill. This is a very important way, because every deck is going to always want a way to get to your opponent's life points, whether that's destroying their face down monsters, whether that is piercing, or whether that is having multi-attacks. And this is a way for the machine deck to stay competitive and not be able to get walled out by just triple set each turn. So Ultimate Flag Beast Cannon Rhino, I hope this card is going to be included, because it is very, very important at this early stage in the game, especially since we're not expecting to have Mirror Innovator, who we will talk about in a little bit. Next up, we have a vanilla monster in Ultimate Flag Beast Avenwolf. It's just a 1500 vanilla, but again, in this early stage, we'll be looking for any light machines we can get, and 1500 vanilla is quite good if you're trying to get aggressive, so it's a decent inclusion, and it would also be a boost to the just kind of generic aggro decks, because it is a machine, which means it won't share types, which is you'll jam it just to play around things like Phantom Mind. Next up, we have a bit more of modern support in Ultimate Flag Beast Bolt Tricorn. If you have no other monsters on your field, send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. 1 face-down spell trap card on your opponent's field cannot be activated until the end of your opponent's next turn. So this card is fine, right? It mills us, which generally is considered a good thing, and it does temporarily turn off a face-down. 1200 attack is also fine. It's nothing like super crazy, but being able to turn off your opponent's face-down, especially if they only have 1, is actually incredible right now, because if you turn off their Widespread Ruin, you're now safe to attack. But if your opponent has more than 1 back row, this becomes a little bit more shaky, and as our back row improves and people are playing more back row, again, this card's effectiveness will effectively drop a little bit. Next up, we have the Ultimate Flag Beast Led Unicorn. You have 3 or more light attribute monsters in your graveyard. Change 1 face-up level 4 or lower monster on your opponent's field to face-down defense position, then you can special summon a level 5 machine monster from your hand face-up to your field. Now, the only real in-archetype way to use that is going to be the Beast Cannon, which is fine because he then does give piercing, so this is a little kind of combo. I don't think Beast-Led Unicorn is particularly strong. Again, you would probably play it just to maximize on the number of light machines you have to try and facilitate all these different effects that you have. But overall, if it does come, it'll be fine. Then Ultimate Flag Beast Surge Bicorn. Now, this is a very, very important one. Shuffle 3 machine-type monsters from your graveyard into the deck. Now, we don't have many shufflers in Duel Links at the moment, but having any shufflers is always going to be great. This turn, this face-up card on your field can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a light attribute machine-type monster in attack position. So this is a very similar effect to something like Kuribot or Seahorse Carrier or Paku Pakuchu, except instead of just putting the card to our hand, we are effectively limited to having to tribute this monster to summon out a Light Machine. But it does, although it's less versatile, it does accomplish the same thing most of the time, which is summoning out a monster for 1 less tribute. So very, very strong, very, very important card for the archetype. And that is it for those cards. But there is one card we mentioned earlier that we're going to talk about now, and that is the linchpin of Light Machines and the card that made them a tier 1 threat, and that is Steel Mechlord Mirror Innovator, the boss monster of the deck. This is another Yuga card, so I would sort of expect to see this because we have been seeing the other Yuga boss monsters in Volt Condor and Bender Break. So if we are getting Light Machines, it would make sense that we got Yuga's next Light Machine boss monster, but this card is very, very powerful, so I don't know if they're going to want to release it this early, but if they do, I predict that Light Machines will become a very strong meta threat. So what is Mirror Innovator? 2400 attack, that's not great, but Ancient Arise Dragon has 2400 attack, and that card still sees play. But we can choose up to 3 monsters in our graveyard with the same type as this card, so that's almost always just going to be Machine, but there is some situations where this will change and you'll be able to use it on other cards. This card gains attack equal to the total levels of those monsters times 100. So if we were to shuffle, let's say, 3 level 7 machines from our graveyard back into our deck, we're gaining 2100 attack and we'll boost up to 4500, which is insanely high. Then shuffle those monsters into the deck. If you shuffled exactly 1 monster, this card inflicts piercing damage. But that is very, very important as well. We can shuffle, let's say, 1 level 7 back into our deck. Our monster goes up to 3100 and gains piercing, which again, like we keep saying, we always want to have a way to get to our opponent's life points, and piercing is one of the most consistent ways to do so, especially since there will be some situations in the future where you don't want to destroy all of your opponent's monsters. Right now, I guess that plays around something like Kuribot, that plays around Paku Pakuchu, it plays around Ghost Cyclone, so sometimes leaving your opponent's monsters up can be a good thing. But being able to pierce through is always going to be really good, and being able to get really, really big is also really good. And you also get to refill your deck, you get your resources back in there, so you have more things to mill. So it's always going to be a very, very powerful card. If we do get Steel Mechlord Mirror Innovator, I will be very, very excited to play this deck. So one other machine monster I'd really like to see come to the game is Crafter Drone. So it's a level 3 1000 attack monster. Earth, which is the one weird thing which means it might not come out because again this is clearly going to be pushing the light machine monsters. We can send 1 machine monster from our hand to the graveyard to draw 1 card. So this is basically Mystic Dealer but for machines, but it is quite nice for the deck and it'll be really nice, especially if we do get the Tough Striker and Gold Rush combo. It'd be a nice way to get Tough Striker into the graveyard, be able to use Gold Rush's effect to its fullest. Yeah, this was just a short little video to talk about what we think might be coming in the new structure deck that will be coming fairly soon to Duel Links. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.